Ahead of the 2024 presidential election, voters have made it clear in numerous polls that threats to our democracy are the most important issues facing the country. An insurrection, menacing election workers and local officials, and attacks on voting rights are shaking people's confidence. But despite all of that, there are good stories. Many young Americans are motivated to participate in the elections process and are creating pathways to expand voting rights and participation in government. And on Wednesday night, 16 and 17-year-olds in Newark, New Jersey won the right to vote in local school board elections after the city council unanimously passed an ordinance that would allow them to vote starting in April. It's the first statewide initiative of its kind, and as the New York Times reports, it makes Newark the largest community to expand voting rights to younger residents since the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18 in 1971. Immediately, this historic move will give students of Newark more say over what happens in their schools and in their lives. Joining us now are two of those students, 16-year-old Nate Esubonteng and Breanna Campbell, who helped push the Newark City Council to lower the voting age. And they're joined by Ryan Haygood, president of the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, one of the main organizations that backed this effort. First and foremost, my congratulations to all of you, but I definitely want to speak to you, Nate, and to you, Breanna. Talk about, Nate, first, why it was so important to make sure that you had a say in what happens in your own life.
I believe it's very important for us to have a say in our life because, personally, I believe that since we're in school for 1/3 of the day, we should have a way to speak about issues that occur. So with this being processed, we would be able to vote for candidates that keep us safe, because I believe that a pressing issue is gun reforms, and having us being able to put in a vote, we would be able to put in a vote for a candidate that can keep us safe.
Breanna, talk about the response from your fellow students and from other teenagers in the community. I mean, you know, I like to say that my girl who's 9 is going on 30, that they're just not the same like when we were growing up. And it's true, though, because the issues that you all face at your age are totally different than what we did. Do you feel like now everybody is going to vote because they have the right to vote at the age of 16?
Kids my age were honestly very excited because not only do they have the voice, they also have the vote to make decisions that impact us. Me personally, I am very excited in organizing my peers and 7,000 students who can now vote to address issues that I deeply care about, which is equity and quality education and educational equity.
Nate, did you feel like there was a void there? Do you feel like you were talking and sharing what was important to you and your classmates and to your fellow students, but that the adults, well, you guys are adults, frankly, but that there were people over the age of 18 that weren't listening to you?
I believe when I presented it in the school, because today we had like a class in history and we were like the topic, our teacher was very, very happy that us students were able to have a say in what happens at school. And then it just gives us the empowerment that we have a say.
Ryan, I wanted to ask you, you have created what looks like to be a successful template to be able to do this in other states. I know that other states and other jurisdictions are asking you for help. Talk about whether or not this can be replicated with success in other places.
Yeah, Katie. So first of all, thanks for having on this show. We've thought a lot about this your first point about this being really the next frontier for the expansion of voting rights. That is lowering the voting age to 16-year-olds in elections that matter most to them. So New Jersey's Constitution gives cities the express authority to lower the voting age, as Newark has taken the lead in doing. But there are other states across the country that have similar constitutions. I think in the top of my mind, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., is similar to New Jersey's Constitution. And I just want to say really quickly, one of the very powerful things that came from the hearing when the city council unanimously lowered the voting age to 16 for school board elections was in Nate's testimony. Nate testified that there are, in the city of Newark in the last school board election, turnout, Katie, was 3%. 3%. And Nate said, because turnout is so low, young people can't rely on other people to make decisions for them. that they are to be empowered to make decisions themselves. And that's really what this move is about. This move, lowering the voting age in Newark to 16, empowers, to Breanna's point, 7,000 young people, 16 and 17-year-olds, to vote in the elections that matter most to them. 90% of those young people are Black and brown. So we're very excited about what this expansion of voting rights means for empowering young people to have access to the fundamental right that is preservative, as the Supreme Court says, of all other fundamental rights.
Last question I have is going to go to Breanna. Breanna, I heard you talk about the issues that are important to you. There are kind of global issues, but you talked about racial equality, right? You talked about social justice. Do you feel like those very weighty, very important issues are kind of a common denominator, considering the fact that, as we just heard from Ryan, you've got almost 90% of the kids or the young people that are now going to be able to vote are actually of people of color?
I would say yes. And equality does play a role in this because it gives everybody the chance to advocate for what they believe is right and what is wrong. So being able to sit here and talk to you inspires other teams, minority groups to come out and talk about what they feel is important.
Well, I just wanted to say, they have that phrase, right? The kids are all right. You guys are not kids. You guys are young adults that are making a difference, inspiring. Nate Esubonteng, Breanna Campbell, and Ryan Haygood. My hat off to you, Ryan, for taking the time to devote to be able to make sure that this happens. Congratulations to all of you again.
Thank you for having us.